Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with Evelyn Kung, and she is answering your questions in real time. In fact, somebody had written it on Facebook, Michelle. Hi, Michelle. And Michelle says, why does my daughter watch Elmo and Baby Einstein at 16 years old and becomes angry and aggressive when watching this? And we were talking during the break, and I said, I have theories, but I want to know what Evelyn thinks.
I want to know her theory.
So let's start with you, though. You're the expert. Why do you think that is?
Okay, I'm going to assume that she's on the spectrum, okay?
Right, well, that's the assumption we're making.
The assumption. Yes. I think so many of those videos early on, like they watched, so many of our kids go back to them because they're comforting to some degree.
Yeah.
And and also our kids like routines. So they saw that video hundreds of times and they want it again. And I have so many like 14-year-olds where the parents are like, I'm so tired of Disney, I'm so tired of all these songs. And I would say, well, what other songs or movies have they seen 1,000 times? Because if you show them something enough, it becomes a routine.
Right.
And then they realize, oh, that's what it is. And that's the reason they go back to them.
Yeah.
And I think so many of our teenagers that have gone back to watch like Sesame Street or certain specific episodes, they like it for the routine, but I don't think they actually like it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
at a certain point, they get very frustrated by it
Yeah.
because maybe they wanted another version or they want something else about it or there's something different about it, and that's what gets them upset. You know, that's one theory is that. Another theory is there are some of our kids who, there's a parent the other day who asked me, who actually came into one of our clinics and said, well, my child perseverates and engages in stereotopy. You guys cannot stop him. Mm. And so then I started telling them, I said, well, you know, functional behavior and stereotopy move up and down, they correlate.
Right.
So the more functional a kid is, the lower the stereotopy, the higher the stereotopy, the lower the functioning skills in your daily life.
Right.
And then he's like, no, you can't stop it because it's like an itch you have to scratch. Mm. And then I said, yeah, but if you scratch too much, you start to bleed.
Right.
And I think that so many of our kids, they might like the stereotopy initially, but at a certain point, it almost like stimulates them too much.
Right.
And they're just like, they end up in a behavior. And they get either super anxious or like they're just really agitated.
Yeah.
And that could also be this too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Absolutely.
Those are my theories, my two.
My theory is very closely related to your first one because I know from watching all my friends who have neurotypical kids and then watching my son, and I've got family members, they're in, you know how and it's what the movie Inside Out is all about, that there is this transition time in everyone's life when we were doing things because those were the kid things to do and they comforted us and they were the things to do, and then suddenly we're doing those things and they don't give us what we need anymore. Yes. We want to go back to them, and I've watched, and it's very interesting to watch family members, you know, around 11, and friends of mine, kids around 11, 12, go through this really weird thing that is the Inside Out movie where they don't fit in their environment anymore, and it doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. And they're like between two worlds. They are not teenagers, but they are not little kids anymore. And they want to ride the kiddie ride, but they feel bad about riding the kiddie ride. And when they do ride the kiddie ride, it doesn't fulfill the need for them. And I think for our kids, sometimes that comes later. Mm-hmm. I have a friend who has a young person on the spectrum who experienced a loss, that a family member very close died. And we saw that there was a regression right afterwards, that individual on the spectrum wanted all the things that he had wanted when he was younger. And it was really troublesome for mom. She was like, oh no, he's gonna regress and want those. But what happened is when he went to those things and was allowed to have them, they weren't satisfying, and he became very angry because what he wanted was the feeling of when everything was okay. Yeah. And his understanding of the world was, if I watch this video, then I will be transported back to that time in my life when everything was okay and I felt safe. But we know it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And how often do we do this as adults that are not on the spectrum? I always talk about how the holidays, everybody's always chasing the perfect holiday, where you remember that holiday when we ate this? And it's never about what we ate, it's about how we felt. So So you go and you overeat for the holidays, hoping that you're going to feel the thing that you felt when you were 9, and you don't get it. All you feel is sugared up and too full, and like, what have I done? I know that this is not good for me, but we're all chasing what that felt like.
Yeah, and we all go back to movies and books and things to watch them because they made us feel good at some point.
Yeah.
And then you watch them, and at the end of it, you're like, oh, that's nice, but
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't
not the
have
same.
that feeling.
it's not the same.
So, you know, I wonder if this is this young person's way of saying, I don't feel comfortable, and finding something new that makes her feel that level of comfort. I love that now. I was in Target the other day, and they were selling weighted blankets in
Yeah,
Target.
I love it. Yeah, it's so
Like, how mainstream has that gotten in just a couple of years? And I already brought up the toy guide this episode, but we find that a lot of our teenagers and young adults like that pressure, not all of them, but that now becomes their Snuggie thing. I can think of one young woman that she carries a coffee cup with a spoon, and that has become her comfort thing, and she feels like she's being an adult because she's there with her coffee cup with her spoon, and that's her comfort thing.
So just an interesting point. We have a teenager, and that, you know, we try to integrate them in school.
Yeah.
And he likes pressure, so we taught him how to use the weight room. And it provides a different kind of, you know, like intensity, and that's what he loves to do now.
Isn't that interesting? See, what I love about this, what I love about ABA, and I love about being around people like Evelyn is that, you know, it's not about taking it away from them at all. It's about finding the thing that fulfills the same purpose, but that fits their life where they are.
Yes, exactly.
And so what a wonderful thing. He's getting that feeling of the pressure from lifting the weights instead of wearing them, and how fabulous is that for his health and
And the
well-being?
thing is, socially, it's amazing because you can go work out with anybody.
Yeah.
It's a whole new social group that
Yeah.
brings them into, and it was a surprise for people.
So, what advice would we give Mom about the Baby Einstein videos? And
My preference, and I know, is I always want to be age appropriate because I think introducing a new skill that maybe she likes, probing if she likes the videos, that is a thing, probing through different videos to see what she's interested in, but knowing that there's autism there, which means that she's going to need a lot of interaction and repetition before you know whether she truly likes it or not. You know, there needs to be a lot of exposure, routine exposure. So I have families who love Star Wars, and Star Wars is such a big deal for so many people that I just told them, just start playing Star Wars in the background in your house.
Yes.
Just have it on.
Yeah.
And the kid walks in and out, and after a while, the kid starts realizing it's, you know, it went from Barney to Star Wars.
Right. Right.
And it's just the familiarity, knowing who the characters are, you know, not understanding the whole story, but for whatever reason, it became a family thing. And there's, I don't know how many movies out now. So it was okay, you know, so.
There's a whole land at Disneyland now.
Exactly. So it's just like trying to find something else for her, something that's going to comfort her, but something, you know, that is more her age, so that hopefully she can do it with other family members or peers or, you know, whatever level she's at.
And she's written back to us, and she says, yes, that she wonders if this is it, and that it's very hard to stop her from watching it. And that Elmo's voice, I think what you're trying to say there, Michelle, is that it's an auditory stim for her, that it, you know, becomes a thing for her. But you know, I find it fascinating what things get related to what things, and you know, even, I don't know, you're probably going to disagree with me because it's not necessarily an age-appropriate thing at 16, but Elmo's a puppet. And sometimes our kids understanding that Elmo is a puppet and having the opportunity to work with a puppet, to do something with a puppet. I love puppets. I'm a puppeteer, and I still have puppets, and I am over 50. So I think it's appropriate for a 16-year-old, but I know everybody doesn't. And by the way, we found out a couple of weeks ago that Bonnie Yates also has puppets. So what does that say? You know, I would argue that Bonnie and I turned out okay, but I think there might be people who would disagree. But in any case, it might be interesting to see what she would do with a puppet, and given the opportunity for her to play with a puppet, and you can get a marionette or you can get a puppet. They have some great puppets that are out there.
And it's interesting that you said her voice, because if you think it's an auditory thing, I always think in terms of auditory replacement. So actually what I do is, usually what I tell the families is, what music do you guys listen to as a family? Because I try to create something that integrates the child into the family.
Yeah.
Bring all that music back out and put it on repetition. Just
There we
play it
go.
over and over, and the child will start to have an affinity for the different songs and
Yeah.
different music and just the repetition. And I have kids, actually most of my teenagers, whenever we start doing that, they all like the music where you can hear the words.
Yeah.
You know, and there's just something about it.
Yeah.
And there is something, like I've had other kids who like Elmo, and there's a pitch that they like.
Yeah.
And so it might turn into some other kind of music too.
Yeah.
And you just never know. But trying all these things and just bringing it in a different way, and knowing that nothing is going to be an immediate fix.
Yeah.
It's going to be the repetition and the exposure that if you do it enough, the child actually will acclimate, whether it is to going to a puppet and learning how to use one and play with one, or if it's to music, or if it's another type of movie, whatever it may be.
It'll be fun figuring it out. But I do think, keeping our kids busy and away from, like, I know it's hard to have her, but she must sleep at some point. And we never want to be deliberately cruel, but if that DVD were to get displaced someplace, not impossible, but someplace where you could get at it if you needed to, but it is not readily available where it was, and that morning is very busy, that you have places to go that are very reinforcing, that, she's got way too many things to do, and they're all things that she likes, but that aren't a place where you can be and watch Elmo, and just keep her as busy as possible so that you can wean her off of it. But
as you're weaning her off, you're weaning her on something.
yes.
It's important to be doing both at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there now. I mean, things have changed so much, I'm the video generation, but what I realized for all the kids when we've done this is a lot of times the videos can go away because you can find them on YouTube.
Yes,
you can find them on the internet. So then the access is not as easy.
Yes, that's true.
And if you really, really needed it, or if you wanted, for some comfort, she does want it and you want to give it to her, it's easy to find it online now.
But the thing that's, I think it's harder to take something away when it actually is providing the comfort, and I think we've established that it's not. So that makes it a little bit easier to say, hey, now's the time to transition out of this. Although, don't kid me for a second here, Michelle, it's going to be a bumpy thing.
And that's why I'm saying start doing the exposure to all these other things and figuring out what she really wants along the way.
Yeah, whether it's making jewelry or,
whatever it may
could be anything.
But as long as there's something to transition to.
Yeah.
There's so many families that come in and say, I want this behavior to go away, but I'm like, is there anything else that you do?
Yeah.
Because there has to be something else, or a replacement of some sort.
Right. That behavior was serving some sort of a purpose. We got to make sure that we fulfill that purpose. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.